"Thank you, Mom, for sacrificing for my career." Laura said it while the phone camera was still pointed straight at my wife. And right after that, Rose's silk dress was tugged out of place under the bright lights, in front of tens of thousands, watching live. I stood a few steps away. No one in that mansion in the Hamptons looked shocked. They clapped. They called it a marketing idea. Only I saw what was really broken. Not the dress, but a mother's trust. Before I tell you what happened after that night, if you care about family stories layered with this kind of emotion, subscribe to the channel, walk with me through the next chapters, and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from. I read everyone carefully. Now, let me take you back to the moment I was about to act. I stepped onto the stage while the applause still hung in the air, scattered, uneven. I took off my jacket and placed it over Rose's shoulders. She didn't cry. Rose has never cried in public. She simply lowered her head, hands clasped tight, as if holding on to the last thread of composure. Laura kept that flawless smile, the kind you learn when you live in front of a camera. "It's just a small accident," she told the tens of thousands watching live. "But see, my shapewear still holds its shape beautifully." The crowd laughed. I heard glasses clink. Someone said, "Marketing genius." I looked at Daniel. My son stood beside his wife, his hand resting lightly on her back, his eyes avoiding mine. He didn't step forward. He didn't help his mother. He just said, low enough for me to hear Dad, "Don't make this a big deal." A big deal. I once ran a media corporation called Summit Media. I know what it means to make something a big deal, and I know when silence is the stronger move. I said nothing. I helped Rose down from the stage. As we passed Laura, she whispered, still smiling, "Mom, don't be upset. The audience loves authenticity." Authenticity. I've lived 75 years. I know the difference between authentic and staged. The silk dress Rose wore that night was my gift to her for our 50th wedding anniversary. I had it custom made by an old designer in Milan. Wine does not just spill perfectly onto the most attention-grabbing spot, and a seam does not simply split at the exact moment someone helps clean it. I saw Laura's hand. A quick pull, small, intentional, but I didn't expose her there. The party continued as if nothing had happened. Music resumed. Laura's family gathered in a corner, checking their phones again and again. I overheard numbers. The views are climbing. So many comments. It's trending. Rose sat beside me, at the last table in the garden. Soft yellow lights rested on her silver hair. She looked out toward the ocean where the night waves in the Hamptons rolled in as steadily as ever. "Don't do anything," she said quietly. "Today is her birthday." I understood. Rose has always been the peacemaker. Her whole life she raised money for charities, supported women targeted online, helped children bullied at school. She believes kindness can change people. But that night, her kindness became a sales tool. I opened my phone. The live stream was still running. Closer angles now. Even a replay of the accident. Below it, thousands of comments, some sympathetic, many laughing, jokes about age, about her body. I didn't read them all. Daniel approached us as the party began to fade. "You should head home," he said. "Laura needs to stay and network with partners." "Partners?" I asked. "Brands. They like how she handled the situation." Handled the situation. I looked straight at my son. "Do you see that your mother was hurt?" He was quiet for a few seconds. Then he sighed. "Mom's just too sensitive. That's how things work now, Dad. Attention sells." I didn't answer right away. I once taught him that reputation takes years to build and can collapse in a single night. Somewhere along the way, he learned that reputation can be bought with views. We left the mansion after midnight. In the car, Rose remained silent. She stared out the window at the lights of other grand houses, sparkling as if untouched by our story. When we reached home, she finally spoke. Maybe I was wrong, thinking she saw me as family. I took her hand. It was warm, but trembling slightly. I didn't promise anything. I only said I need to know the whole truth. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my old study where photos from my years at Summit Media still hang on the wall. I watched the entire live stream again, frame by frame. I zoomed in on the moment Laura bent down to help. I saw her eyes flick toward the camera, just before her fingers tugged the seam. It wasn't an accident. Close to 3 in the morning, an automated report came in from an old friend in data analytics. The clip had passed 1 million views. Laura's online store sales had surged within 2 hours. 1 million people witnessed my wife placed in that position. I wondered, did they know that behind that screen was a 70-year-old woman who spent half her life helping others? Or was it just entertainment to them? The next morning, entertainment sites began reposting the clip. Some called it a bold tribute. Others questioned the ethical line. I didn't respond to the press. I didn't call Laura. I waited, because I understand one thing. When someone believes they are at the peak, they reveal the most. And that night, inside that vast mansion, it wasn't just Rose's dress that was pulled off course. Something else shifted. My family. The next morning I called Laura. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten her. I said one simple sentence. Take the video down and apologize to your mother-in-law. On the other end, I heard a soft laugh. Not a happy one. The kind of laugh from someone who believes they hold the advantage. Dad, she said gently, like she was explaining something to an outdated man. You don't understand how the world works now. The clip is at the top of the trending list. Brands just signed more contracts. If I take it down now, I destroy my own revenue. Your mother-in-law's dignity is not a marketing tool, I replied. Dignity? She paused. She was just a little awkward. Audiences like real moments. Imperfection. That's personal branding. I let a few seconds pass. You won't take it down? No, and I won't apologize. If she feels uncomfortable, I can post another video. A positive angle. A story about sacrifice. About mothers supporting the younger generation. It'll be even better. I ended the call. That afternoon, Daniel came to see me. He didn't sit right away. He stood in the living room, like a guest unsure of his welcome. You're making this too tense, Dad, he said. Tense, you called Laura. Asked her to remove the clip. She's under pressure from partners. Sales went up nearly 300% overnight. I looked at my son for a long moment. Did you see your mother when she came home last night? Daniel sighed. She was a little upset. She'll be fine. Your generation is more sensitive. Nowadays, everyone gets posted online. No one cares for long. I care. He said nothing. I continued, my voice steady. Do you remember who helped you when your first business failed 3 years ago? Who quietly paid off your debts? He turned away. That's not related. It is, I said, because you are treating her sacrifice as something ordinary. He didn't respond. Instead, he placed a folder on the table. You should think about our shared future, he said. Laura wants to open a large showroom in Manhattan. If we transfer the mansion in the Hamptons early, we can rotate the capital better. You're retired. Holding that kind of asset without profit doesn't make sense. I opened the folder. A proposal to transfer partial ownership of family property to a company under Laura's name. You think this is the right time for this conversation? I asked. Opportunity doesn't wait, Daniel said. The market supports her right now. If we move fast, the brand can go national. I closed the folder, and if I refuse for the first time, he looked directly at me. Don't put me in a difficult position. Laura is my wife. I have to stand with her. I nodded slowly. I wasn't surprised. What stayed with me was the certainty in his voice. After he left, I opened my phone. More articles had appeared. Not only was the old clip being shared again, new side stories were emerging. An anonymous account claimed Rose was a controlling mother-in-law. Another said she had always looked down on her daughter-in-law's work. The comments were spreading unusually fast. Clusters of similar wording. Newly created accounts. I spent years overseeing media analytics at Summit Media. I recognized organized seeding when I saw it. That evening, when Laura stopped by to pick up documents, I asked her directly, Did you hire a comment management team? She didn't deny it. It's crisis management. If we don't tell our story, someone else will. What story? That I'm a victim too. That Mom never liked me. That she compared me to others. I'm just protecting myself. Rose sat a few steps away, listening quietly. She did not argue. I looked at Laura. You're building your career by positioning your mother-in-law as the opposition. I'm building a brand, she corrected. The audience needs conflict. Without conflict, there's no engagement. In that moment, I understood something clearly. In Laura's world, family is content. A few days later, a new video appeared. Laura sat in front of the camera, her voice trembling just enough. She spoke about being misunderstood, about the complexity of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationships. She never mentioned Rose by name, but the edited images behind her suggested everything. Views climbed, the comments split into sides, and the number criticizing Rose kept growing. I watched my wife begin to withdraw. She declined a charity fundraiser she had attended for years, saying she didn't want to attract the press. That night, I asked if she wanted me to act more firmly. Rose shook her head. "The more you react, the bigger it becomes," she said softly. "I don't want Daniel trapped between us." I understood her fear, but I also understood this. Silence prolonged, long enough, becomes agreement. 1 week after the party, Daniel called again. "Dad," he said, no longer gentle, "if you keep pressuring us, Laura and I will move out completely, and don't expect to be involved in the business plans anymore." "Since when was I involved?" I asked. "I mean, don't interfere." I set the phone down without answering. That night, I sat alone in my study. I reopened old reports, old contacts I had stepped away from when I retired from Summit Media. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for the truth. If Laura believed social media was absolute power, I wanted to know what that power was built on, where her products were sourced, how her supply chain operated, how taxes were declared. I didn't tell Rose these thoughts. I only said, "We're going away for a few days." She looked at me, tired but trusting. "What are you planning?" "Not everything yet," I said. "But I know this: when someone uses the public to hurt another person, the truth must also be brought into the public." Outside the window, the ocean moved in steady rhythm. But I know waves are not always calm, and I no longer intend to stand by and watch. We left the Hamptons on a foggy morning. Rose thought it was just a short getaway. She packed a few simple outfits, and her familiar notebook for the charity fund. I didn't tell her this trip was also the moment I began reopening doors I had closed years ago. I had stepped down from leadership at Summit Media, intending to live quietly. I handed over most of my authority, kept my shares, but stayed out of daily control. But relationships don't disappear just because you stop appearing in the press. On our first night at the hotel after Rose fell asleep, I called an old friend who once handled internal investigations. "I need to review the supply chain of a rising cosmetics brand," I said. No noise, no trace, a few seconds of silence. Then understood. I wasn't asking for weaknesses. I was asking for the truth. 3 days later, the first report arrived in my private email. I read every line. Laura's products did not come from the high-end laboratories she advertised. Most were outsourced to a small overseas factory, relabeled, repackaged. There were safety certificates, but not for the exact formula she was selling. I didn't rush to judgment. I asked for deeper verification. The second report came 2 days later. There was a discrepancy between import volume and declared tax numbers. Not large enough to trigger immediate alarms, but enough to raise questions. I set my phone down and looked at Rose, sitting by the hotel window. She was reading news on her tablet. A fresh headline had just gone up: "The mother-in-law of a famous influencer remains silent amid controversy." Rose turned off the screen when she saw me watching. "Don't worry," she said softly. "Public waves pass." I walked over and sat across from her. "Do you believe Laura truly regrets it?" Rose thought for a moment. "Maybe she's afraid of losing momentum. Young people live on attention now. If they pause, they fear disappearing." I understood that psychology. I had watched media stars rise fast, then fall just as quickly after one wrong campaign. But what troubled me was this: Laura didn't look afraid. She looked more confident every day. That evening, Daniel called. "Did you hear?" he said, excited. "Laura's about to sign a statewide distribution deal. The showroom in Manhattan is almost secured." "Congratulations," I said evenly. "But we need more capital to finish the interior. If you transfer that property share like we discussed, everything moves faster." I didn't answer right away. "Do you trust your wife's entire business operation?" Daniel paused. "What are you implying?" "I'm asking if you've reviewed the books." "Dad, what are you suggesting I'm asking?" Silence. Then his tone hardened. "Don't go looking for faults. Laura works hard. She built this from zero." I thought of the reports in my inbox. Zero can sometimes be a story we tell. After that call, I decided to go one step further. I let a small piece of information slip within the family. I said an old investment of mine wasn't performing well, that I might need to liquidate some assets to rebalance. Daniel reacted faster than I expected. 2 days later, he and Laura came to see me. This time, Laura wasn't gentle. If you're truly facing difficulty, she said, then transferring the mansion in the Hamptons sooner makes even more sense. We can take over. It helps you stabilize and prevents the asset from falling into outside hands. Outside hands, I repeated. I mean the market, she corrected smoothly. You know property can lose value if it isn't leveraged. Rose sat beside me, quiet. I added another detail, clearer this time. My doctor advised me to reduce stress. I may withdraw completely from my remaining investments. Daniel looked at me. Something flickered in his eyes. Concern or calculation? Is it that serious? He asked. It could be, I said. I'm not sure yet. After they left, Rose turned to me. You're not really in trouble, are you? I held her gaze. No, but I need to know. If one day I truly grow weak, how we will be treated. She understood. She didn't ask more. A week passed. I received word that Laura had moved forward with securing the new showroom entirely under her personal name, separate from family assets. At the same time, she applied for additional bank loans, using advertising contracts as collateral. None of that was illegal by itself. But when I compared it to the tax reports, the numbers didn't align. I asked my former legal team to review everything carefully. No assumptions, only evidence. Then one evening, while reviewing documents, Daniel called again. Could you and Mom temporarily move out of the main house? He asked. Laura needs it to film a major campaign. A traditional family setting will make it feel authentic. I listened to every word. We're talking about whose house? I asked. It's jointly owned, he replied, but we cover most of the operational costs. He didn't mention those costs came largely from the family fund I established years ago. You want us to leave our home for advertising just a few weeks. I set the phone down slowly. That night I told Rose, we may need to try one more step. What step? I'm going to announce that I'm nearly bankrupt. Rose looked at me for a long time. What do you think Daniel will do? I don't know, I answered honestly. But I need to find out. Outside, the ocean kept rolling against the shore, but I felt something clearly now. When money and fame become the center, loyalty is usually the first thing tested, and I was ready to see the result of that test. The news that I was nearly bankrupt spread faster than I expected. I never released an official statement. I simply let a few trusted financial contacts know that I was restructuring assets, stepping back from several investments, possibly selling the remainder of my shares in Summit Media. In business, a single sign of instability is enough to start a wave of speculation. Daniel reacted almost immediately. He didn't call gently this time. He came straight to the temporary apartment where Rose and I were staying, after we had voluntarily left the house so Laura could film her campaign. You need to be clear with me, he said. If you can't support us anymore, we have to adjust our plans. What plans? I asked. The showroom in Manhattan. The ad contracts. The loans. I used the family reputation to secure them. I looked at my son. Whose reputation did you use? He avoided my eyes. Ours. I didn't mention that I had signed no guarantees. I only said, if you built everything on your own ability, my name shouldn't be the deciding factor. He didn't answer, but for the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. 2 weeks later, Laura officially announced the grand opening of her largest showroom in Manhattan. She promoted it loudly. Daily countdowns, luxury visuals, bright lights, promises of a female-led beauty empire. I watched all of it, in silence. At the same time, the legal and financial team I trust finalized their review. Import documents did not match product labels. Tax filings were inconsistent. Some certificates had altered dates, not minor oversights. A pattern. I didn't make public accusations myself. I forwarded the full documentation to legal counsel and the appropriate authorities. I didn't demand immediate action. I only said, conduct an independent review. The opening day arrived. Manhattan glowed under bright sun. A red carpet stretched across the entrance. Laura stood at the center in a white suit, scissors in hand. Daniel stood beside her, trying to look confident. Rose and I were not invited, but we came anyway. We stood at the back of the crowd, unnoticed. Rose wore dark sunglasses. Her silver hair was neatly arranged. She said nothing, only held my hand. Laura began her live stream. Tens of thousands watching in real time. She spoke about struggle, about how no one believed in her at first. There were people who thought I wasn't worthy, she said, her voice trembling just enough. But I proved them wrong. At that exact moment, Phones across the crowd vibrated. On several large advertising screens, nearby screens managed by long-standing partners of Summit Media, the visuals changed. Not a cosmetics ad, footage from the birthday party in the Hamptons. Not the edited version, a clearer angle. Laura looking directly at the camera, before pulling the seam of Rose's dress. Her voice low, "Keep the camera steady." The crowd murmured. Her live stream faltered as comments flooded in. I saw her freeze, then force a smile. "There must be a technical mistake," she said. But the video continued. Then came audio legally obtained from a manufacturing partner. Laura, speaking about cutting costs by adjusting the formula while keeping premium packaging. Laughing as she said customers never read the ingredient list. I felt no triumph. Only a heavy emptiness. Within minutes, regulatory representatives arrived. No drama. No shouting. They entered the showroom calmly, spoke with her attorney, requested temporary access to documents and product samples for review. Daniel looked around as if the ground had shifted beneath him. Laura's phone kept vibrating. I knew why. The social media platform she depended on had received formal violation reports. Algorithmic flags were triggered for manipulation and harmful practices. Her account was temporarily suspended pending investigation. The live stream cut off mid-sentence. The crowd began to disperse. Some shook their heads. Some took photos. No one clapped. Laura turned and saw Rose and me standing behind the crowd. Her confidence was gone. Only shock remained. Daniel walked quickly toward us. "Dad, did you do this?" I looked at my son. "I did nothing except place the truth where it belonged." "You could have spoken to us privately," he said, his voice shaking. "I did," I replied. "Many times." Rose stood beside me, her back straight. She did not say a word of accusation. Her silence made everything clearer. Behind us, the showroom lights still burned bright, but inside, it was unraveling. Partners withdrawing, employees whispering. Laura's family gathered in tense argument. I wasn't there to watch a collapse. I was there to close a circle. As we turned to leave, Daniel called after us. "Dad, please don't let this go any further." I paused. "It went too far the night of the birthday," I said quietly. "Today is just where it returns to its starting point." We stepped onto the street. The sun still shone over Manhattan, as if unaware of what had just happened. But I knew something had been exposed that morning. Not just a brand, the way we choose to define success. We didn't go back to the showroom again that day. I didn't want Rose standing under those lights, under those judging eyes, for even one more minute. We walked a long stretch down the avenue, then took a cab back to the temporary apartment. In the car, Rose stayed quiet. I knew she wasn't happy about any victory. She has never celebrated someone else's collapse. She just looked out the window, at the high-rise buildings sliding past like cold slabs of concrete. "Do you feel lighter?" she asked softly. I thought for a moment. "I feel clear," I said. "Lighter is something else." The days after that moved faster than I expected. Authorities announced a temporary suspension of Laura's company, pending a review of product sourcing and tax records. Business partners publicly ended their contracts. The social media platform where she built her name confirmed policy violations and locked her account indefinitely. No one needed me to step forward and explain anything. The truth was already loud enough. Daniel called me late one evening. His voice wasn't sharp anymore. "Dad." I went back and looked at everything. "Good," I said. I didn't know it had gone that far. I thought it was just some aggressive marketing tactics. "Did you ask enough questions?" I asked. He went quiet. That silence said more than any excuse could. "I don't want to lose everything," he continued. I put my trust in the wrong place." I let out a slow breath. "Trust isn't wrong. The way you used it was." A few days later, Daniel came to see me in person. No tailored suit, no usual confidence. He sat across from me like a young man fresh out of college. "I want to start over," he said. "No family name, no family money. If you still believe in me, give me a chance to work from the bottom." I looked at my son for a long time. I could have refused. I could have repeated every word he once used to defend his wife, but that wouldn't move us forward. "You'll work like a regular employee," I said. "No privileges, no titles." He nodded immediately. No hesitation. Laura was different. Her attorney contacted us once, proposing negotiation, suggesting reduced responsibility. I didn't join that conversation. I handed all documents to the proper authorities. The rest was a legal process, not a personal emotion. I don't call it punishment. I call it consequence. One afternoon, after things had quieted down, Rose and I returned to the house in the Hamptons. The mansion felt calmer. No stage lights, no camera crew. We walked through the garden where the birthday party had taken place. Rose stopped at the exact spot where the stage once stood. She bent down and picked up a leftover ribbon from the grass. I kept thinking I did something wrong, she said. Maybe I was too strict. Maybe I just don't understand the younger generation. I shook my head. Kindness doesn't belong to any generation. We sat on a wooden bench, facing the ocean. The waves rolled in, steady as ever. I told Rose about a decision I had already prepared. The funds recovered from liquidating the shares connected to Laura, the portion we had once indirectly supported, would be transferred into a new foundation. What kind of foundation, she asked. One that supports women harmed by online harassment and media manipulation, I said. I want it to carry your name. Rose looked at me. Her eyes were wet, but no tears fell. You don't have to do that. I do, I said. Not to fix someone else's mistakes, but to remind us who we are. A few months later, the foundation officially began operating. No noise, no big press conference, just a short announcement on the organization's website, with a clear mission to protect women's dignity and emotional safety in the digital world. Daniel started his new job at the lowest position in a subsidiary within the old Summit Media network. He left early, came home late. No more media appearances. Every weekend, he visited us, sitting quietly, while Rose talked about her garden. We never mentioned the birthday night again, not because we forgot, but because we understood. One evening at sunset, as the sun slowly dipped into the sea in the Hamptons, Rose took my hand. Do you think social media is truly bad? She asked. I looked at the red horizon. No, it only magnifies who we already are. If there's blind ambition inside, it amplifies that. If there's kindness, it can spread that too. Rose nodded. I thought about everything that had happened. A dress pulled out of place, a live stream, a brand collapsing, a family tested. A reputation can be built overnight. Character cannot. I squeezed my wife's hand gently. Social media can create a temporary crown, I said slowly, but only kindness builds something that lasts. Numbers can change by the hour. The way we treat our family stays much longer. The waves kept touching the shore, steady, patient, and this time, I didn't feel the need to prove anything anymore. Thank you for staying with me until these final moments. If this story made you think about family, about honor, about how we treat each other in the digital age, I hope you'll take a moment to like this video. It helps this channel continue sharing stories that are honest and meaningful. Subscribe so you won't miss the next one. And if you believe this message deserves to travel further, share it with someone you care about. I truly appreciate you being here.